A common line of attack toward Bernie Sanders in his pushing for Medicare for All is that his plan would do away with private insurers. And even though that's an attack, here is how Bernie Sanders handles that very criticism.
We have to recognize that the current system is incredibly dysfunctional and wasteful. Its goal is to make profits for the insurance companies and the drug companies. You are not going to be able in the long run to have cost-effective universal health care unless you change the system, unless you get rid of the insurance companies, unless you stand up to the greed of the drug companies.
Now, that video clip on MSNBC with Chris Hayes was tweeted by the RNC, and the RNC attacked Bernie Sanders for that, writing, "Bernie Sanders on limiting private health insurance, get rid of the insurance companies." And Bernie Sanders retweeted it and added the comment, "You're damn right."
God, that's why we love him. You wonder why we love him. That's why. Okay, so that goes to two things, guys. One, who is the champion of these policies? Who's the champion? So look, there are other progressives that I like in the race, and I got no issues with them and no disrespect, but who's the champion? He's been championing that for decade after decade. You know why I say that? Because it's a fact. He's not my uncle. I don't know him from Adam, okay? All I know is here's this guy who is a rock and who's been fighting for this all along. So he's been right on the issues. He's been the ones fighting for those issues, which leads to point number two. When someone is in office, who do you think is going to act on these issues? Someone who joined the party late, someone who's kind of in favor of it, who's in favor of Medicare for some or Medicare for all eventually, or a guy who writes, damn right we're gonna get rid of private insurance and we're gonna get you Medicare for all. Medicare polls not Medicare for all, Medicare itself polls at 77%. Medicare for all polls at 70%. Now Democratic leadership is bragging that the Affordable Care Act is now up to 50%. Great, I think the Affordable Care Act is infinitely better than what we had before. Is it as good as Medicare for all?
No.
Clearly not. It does not cover nearly as many things. It has Medicare for all has no premiums, deductibles, copays. I can go on and on. So, but the Democrats go, oh wow, I mean, Medicare for all might poll at 70%, but that number's gonna go down. That number's gonna go down. Well, you don't say that about Affordable Care Act. You don't say, oh, it's at 50%, but it's gonna go down. You go, yes, it's at 50%. So why don't you celebrate that Medicare for all is at 70%? Because you don't actually want it. I don't want a president who's gonna lie to us and then not do a goddamn thing. I want a president who comes in on day one and who says, Medicare for all, you're damn right we're going for it and we're gonna get it.
So I wanna elaborate a little more on the point that you made about how Bernie Sanders has been fighting for the same thing for decades, right? He's not some latecomer to the progressive movement. He was talking about and pushing forward progressive policies from day one, even when these policies were not popular, even when progressivism wasn't considered trendy in the Democratic Party. And so I think that that speaks volumes to who he is as a politician. I feel like progressivism today is to politics what skinny jeans is to fashion, right? It's trendy, so politicians, I see a lot of politicians throwing that word around as if it's something that they've always believed in. I just see a lot of fraudulent behavior going on, and I ask that everybody pay close attention to voting records, pay close attention to speeches that have been given by these politicians throughout the decades, if they've been politicians throughout the decades. What have they stood for? Have they been strong? More importantly, have they been leaders? Because I would argue that it's incredibly easy to be a leader when you're fighting for something that's already very popular. A real leader pushes the country in the right direction when it's uncomfortable and difficult to do so. And that's what Bernie Sanders has done over and over again.
Now people come on and go, oh yeah, sure, I'm for Medicare for all. I mean, it's overwhelmingly popular, so I'm in favor of it. I mean, eventually. No, hell to the no. Not eventually, day one. We're not stuttering. Now, so let me address the so-called journalists in Washington who are deeply biased against progressives and Bernie Sanders. So first of all, they'll sometimes say things like, well, since he's won on all these issues and the other candidates have adopted them, we don't need him anymore. the hell kind of sense does that make? Since George Washington already won the Revolutionary War and everybody is now an American, we don't need him anymore. So he shouldn't run for president. What? Well, what are you? Why wouldn't the leader run? Why wouldn't the guy who championed it run and be the obvious one you should support? No, it can't be Bernie. Why? Because he would actually do it, and no one in Washington actually wants it done. Let's keep it real on that. So that's the reality of what's going on. Now, on the issue of private insurance, this is where all the Washington reporters who claim they're unbiased, we're neutral, an opinion. We asked a political reporter on the show a couple of weeks ago. He said, no, I don't do assumptions, I only do facts. That's hilarious, okay? Their assumption is getting rid of private insurance, that's radical. That's radical. Wait a minute, isn't that an assumption? Every other developed country has a single payer and doesn't have private insurance. They might have different layers of small amount of private insurance, but largely it's single payer, the government does it. So aren't we the radical ones for being the only developed country that relies on private insurance, who maximizes their profits by not giving us healthcare, by not giving us healthcare? But somehow the radical position is to provide healthcare for everyone. But that's not a radical position. It's only radical if you're a corrupt Washington insider who wants to protect the profits of health insurance executives. So is it actually radical to get rid of private insurance? No, because in reality, we're not getting rid of privatized healthcare or hospitals or any of those things. So they usually leave it vague enough that it scares people, like, oh my God, are they gonna get rid of my doctor? They're gonna get rid of, no, it doesn't affect your doctor at all. Can you still go to your doctor? Absolutely, you will be covered completely. So why would you need private insurance if you're covered completely? Well, I mean, what if you had cancer? Covered. What if you got a heart attack? Covered. What if you broke your leg? Covered. What if you had any kind of disease? Covered. But what would be your copay? Zero. Premium, zero. Deductible, zero. But that'll be a lot of taxes. But that Medicare-for-All, even according to the Koch brothers study, saves $2 trillion. It saves $2 trillion. Why don't you be honest with the American people? You don't want Bernie Sanders because you're afraid he actually will do Medicare-for-All, and he will cost you some advertisers that are in the health insurance company that allow you to get fat off their money as they're getting fat off the rest of us. Listen, I'm gonna tell you something, okay? It says Homo Progressives on this shirt, okay, at the bottom. That's our slogan, Homo Progressives. And yes, in the next year and a half, or a little bit longer than that, there's gonna be a huge fight. And we're gonna be on your side. And almost no one else is. tyt.com/join. You either make us strong and powerful and we roar for you guys, or you'll have the same lukewarm, biased, completely in favor of the status quo and the establishment press that is the entirety of the rest of the media. So your call, but we can't do this alone. We don't have any private backers. We don't have any giant insurance companies backing us. All we got is you guys. tyt.com/join. Let's roar together. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.